What's up everybody, my name is Vincent. Welcome to Cryptolution, where we talk about everything under the moon in the crypto universe. Today's Thursday, February 12th. Now today's video, I want to talk more specifically on what occurred on October 10th of 2025. As you're aware, October 10th, aka 1010, was the largest liquidation event in crypto history. Over $19 billion or more in liquidations during that period. Now, this is the largest that we've seen, even bigger than the COVID-19 crash. Now, what I want to explain to you in this article and in this video are the sequence of events that happened before the 1010 crash and also the events that followed after the 1010 crash. And we're going to be looking into CZ from Binance and how Binance Exchange has been responding to all the claims and investigations and scrutiny that have been risen over the past few weeks. Now, you're going to see a lot of different clips from hedge fund managers. These are basically CEOs that manage multi-billions of dollars in their hedge funds, sharing their perspectives on what happened on 1010, who was responsible. And you're going to see the responses for the Binance team and former founder to share their personal opinions of what actually happened in their perspective. At the end of the video, I want for you to come up with your own consensus, to come up with your own conclusions, because overall, the truth needs to be said, and I think that this video will help explain exactly what happened. So let's get right into it. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to join us on X. Please be careful with any of the scammers down in the comments below. I'll never reach out via WhatsApp, Telegram, direct messaging, or email. So please be careful and invest safely. Guys and girls, let's get right into it. So the very first thing I want to talk about is what happened before the 1010 crash. Now, these are the events that I kind of just want to point out. So if you notice on September 21st of 2025, you saw that CoinDesk reported that CZ's family office had investment stake into Athena Labs. Now, this is very important because Athena Labs is the creator of USDE, which is a stablecoin on Athena. Now, on October 8th, you'll notice that a publication made it known that yzilabs, formerly known as Binance Labs, announces their investment into Athena Labs' new stablecoin, USDE. Then on October 10th on 2025, this is when the flash crash happened. As you can see from the image on your screen, October 10th was $19 billion in liquidations. That's bigger than what happened with the whole tariff news on February 3rd. Also, the December 10th, 2024 quantum computing news that was flooding basically Bitcoin. It was bigger than the FTX crash in 2022 and even bigger than the COVID-19 crash during the lockdown in 2020. Now let's focus on what happened on October 14th. 4 days after that event happened. Tom Lee, with his fundstrat capital private chat, or aka private stream, basically informing investors that basically what they saw on October 10th was due initially to the thought of President Trump on his Truth Social post saying that the potential catalyst for that liquidation event was because of his tweets. And I want to share that video right now.
It all started with Friday, October 10th, when President Trump posted this very long post on Truth Social. And there he was talking about his concerns about actions taken by China and what he called export controls. And he was going to respond with a massive increase of tariffs. And crypto markets, which trade over the weekend, underwent a massive sell-off. In fact, it triggered what is expected to be one of the largest ever one-day liquidations, the largest really since 2018 and 2021. And in 2021, that had to do with FTX. To give you an idea, someone posted this on Twitter that outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which held up well, look at things like Sui, or Cardano, which went from 80 cents to 30 cents. Sui went from $3.40 to 56 cents. So clearly a huge liquidation. But then by Sunday evening, President Trump said, don't worry about China. All will be fine. So in some ways, I guess that liquidation and turmoil over the weekend looks like it's largely going to reverse.
So as you can see, based on what we saw on October 10th, it was reactive to what we thought was the news that President Trump was going to put these tariffs against China. But just a few days later, on Sunday, the following Sunday, that news washed over and Trump changed the tune and there was no tariff announcement. But still, we saw the largest liquidation event in history. But then on October 23rd, 13 days later, you saw that CZ, the former founder, now is the former founder of Binance, was then pardoned by the president. And this comes after CZ pleaded guilty to violating the US anti-money laws under the Biden administration. And remember, the reason he went to prison is because he was exploited by the SEC that he used two different market makers, Sigma and Merit Peak. If you haven't seen that article already, you should definitely check it out on my page because I actually talk about why these two different entities are very important, because Sigma was the main market maker for Binance.com. And also Merit Peak was something that CZ had directed over 16 million management funds to the Binance US platform. These are the market makers I'm talking about. But what's really interesting, after CZ was pardoned, you can see that President Trump was asked about this from the media. That why was there some conflict of interest? Why was there some rationale behind CZ's pardon? And this is his response on multiple different platforms and also his administration answering these questions. And you can see that they're pretty much dodging it.
Pardoned the founder of Binance. Can you explain why you chose to pardon him? And did it have anything to do with his involvement in your
Which one? Who is that?
The founder of Binance. He has an involvement in your own family's crypto business.
Yes, talking about the crypto person?
Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that.
Now, with Binance founder Zhao pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering laws and was sent to prison, Binance then injected billions of dollars into Trump's family business, World Liberty Financial, and Zhao asked for a pardon and received that. I just wanted to ask you, is that a conflict of interest in your opinion?
I am unfamiliar with any of that. I wear many hats. The pardon hat is not one of them.
I'm just asking, do you see it as a conflict of interest, though?
Again, I'm not going to respond to that.
Now let's fast forward to November 20th. Okay, so Tom Lee, as I mentioned before, during his private stream on fundstrat, said that the potential liquidation event was due to President Trump. But then he changed his tune on November 20th when he was on CNBC, saying that the 1010 crash was actually an event that originated on a specific exchange, when a specific stablecoin deviated sharply from one peg dollar to roughly 65 cents. And the CNBC host asked Tom Lee, well, who are they? Who was responsible? And you'll be surprised that Tom Lee decides to not name that specific entity, maybe due to legal risk.
Well, Steve actually pointed this out. There's a lot of what they call automated processes in crypto. One of them is called ADL, okay, and that's an automatic liquidation feature that would take place if someone's account or their collateral drops in price. It's essentially like a margin call. On a specific exchange, a stablecoin's price varied from other exchanges. It actually, stablecoin should stay at $1. It dropped to 65 cents. But that only happened within the exchange quotes, within this exchange because of liquidity. That triggered an ADL, an automatic liquidation across many accounts. It wiped out, as that spread across other exchanges, right? Because liquidations cascade. Almost 2 million crypto accounts got wiped out, even though minutes before they were actually profitable accounts.
So who is behind this? Like, who's the they in the market makers and they got hit? Who's the they?
Well, Brian, I am aware of names, but because I'm not someone who wants to name names, I think what you should keep in mind is that this error is actually essentially a bug, a code error, because I think in retrospect, they would have pulled pricing from across exchanges to set the price for that stablecoin rather than rely on internal quotes.
But you know who wasn't afraid of mentioning the name of that exchange? Well, on January 27th of 2026, Cathie Woods, founder, CEO, and CIO of ARK Invest, first time publicly stated that the 1010 crash was linked to a software glitch on the Binance exchange.
You've got a pure play Bitcoin fund. Sure. And I'm just interested to know, because we're off the 126,000 high level, you're still in it to win it?
We are in it to win it, absolutely. So ARKB, right, is our spot Bitcoin ETF. As we assess the ecosystem right now, what we've undergone in the last 2 to 3 months are the reverberations after 1010. So 1010, October 10th, was in the crypto world, I'm not sure if it's mentioned this more broadly, is the flash crash. crash associated with a software glitch on Binance that deleveraged the system to the tune of $28 billion. There are a lot of people hurt. And we think that unwind, and often when you go through an unwind, Bitcoin's going to be hit the hardest because it's the most liquid crypto asset.
And due to this emerging news, people went all over Twitter saying, hey, CZ, what's going on? We just heard that Cathie Wood said that Binance was responsible for this. Due to all the scrutiny and comments asking for questions from ZZ, all of a sudden, you saw that on January 29th, CZ turned off all of his comments. Now, he says it's to identify critics among followings, but at the same time, he's also still today with those comments turned off, not allowing for people to have their questions answered. And so this is a little suspicious to me. And if you thought that wasn't crazy, a day later, January 30th of 2026, on the Compound News podcast, Tom Lee reiterated that the 1010 flash crash was linked to a pricing quote-unquote exploit on an exchange. And again, he refrained from disclosing its name, but you know deep down it's Binance.
I don't know. What's your story for why it's been so directionless over the last few months?
Yeah, crypto was doing well until October.
So do you buy that story? The option story?
A few things happened in October.
Okay.
So crypto was actually up like 36%. And then from October to the end of the year, it actually had in some cases, like a 40% drawdown.
Yeah.
One was there was a big deleveraging. There was basically a pricing exploit that took place on one crypto exchange that led to what they call an automatic deleveraging. Then that cascaded across all the crypto exchange, and it was the biggest deleveraging event in the history of crypto, bigger than what happened with FTX after SB.
So what happened? The people with leverage got unwound, and they were forced out of longs, and it kind of wrecked the trend.
Correct, and it was a pricing error, but it liquidated over 2 million accounts globally. It wiped out, I think, a third of all market makers, which are important for they're the equivalent of central banks, and it crippled a lot of crypto exchanges. So their balance sheets took a huge hit.
Again, if he's not going to say it, Cathie Woods is going to say it. So on February 2nd of 2025, on the Rundown interview, Cathie Woods reiterates and stated for the second time that the 1010 flash crash was caused by a software glitch at Binance.
You've heard of the flash crash? 1010? Okay, so
please educate me. Yeah.
Yeah. This, I think, it's very few people know this, but because there have been so many other things to worry about. But on October 10th, there was the flash crash caused by a software glitch at Binance, and there was an auto deleveraging event. People were just, margin called to the tune of about $28 billion. We know some of the entities that were caught up in that. They were caught flat-footed. And we think that is just now washing through the system. So if you're looking for something that has weighed on it recently, we do think that happened.
Then on February 2nd and 3rd, which was either the same day or a day after, CZ was on the Wu blockchain interview and still claimed to this day that the US-China tariff announcements were to blame for the 1010 crash and not the Binance system issues.
The highest complaint I've seen so far is on the October 10th crash. Some people say Binance caused it. I just want to be very clear. It's pretty clear that the tariff announcements preceded the crash, not Binance system issues or Binance doing anything. I can also tell you pretty clearly that I or Binance, we don't buy and sell crypto really in the sense of trading, try to make money out of it. We don't do that. Understand that Bitcoin itself is a $2 trillion market. They would probably have to risk in the order of hundreds of billions of dollars to try to impact the Bitcoin price. For any single entity or individual to do that, they have to take that risk that they may lose a couple $100 billion. I would never want to do that. I don't know anybody on the planet that's crazy enough to do that. Binance.com global exchange is a regulated entity now. It has a global regulator, ADGM, which are able to review all trades on all accounts. Binance, the company, also has US monitors. So Binance is not in a position to do anything funky. Based on all of that, if any of you guys still think that, anybody who still think Binance Binance deliberately caused that crash or try to sell Bitcoins to manipulate the price, that's just really, really far-fetched. And also, there are other people who complain about potential system issues that caused the crash. And I believe for anybody who's affected by that, they were already made whole by Binance. In this world, no technology is guaranteed to work all the time. The internet can be broken. If you bet on all those things working all the time, if anytime those things have any weakness, you're going to lose all your money, then you're probably risking too much.
So it's really crazy that you have Tom Lee and also Cathie Woods, who own basically and run a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, are saying that the crash happened on Binance, but CZ is gaslighting it, which I find very interesting. Then you see on February 7th, just a few days later, the New York Times reported that World Liberty Financial and Binance were financially intertwined in CZ's pardon. Now, this was basically fueling a lot of concerns over political power and political influence merging with companies like Binance. And so that makes you think and wonder, why did CZ get pardoned? Well, based on the article, despite the felony record, Mr. Zhao, aka ZZ, was allowed to remain a Binance majority shareholder, and his clemency could pave the way for a company to break into the US market, where it currently is not allowed to operate. So is there a potential that Binance or CZ want to be in the US and garner more US customers? Because right now they have over 300 million US customers worldwide except for the US. Now, if they have access to US customers, that could be a huge problem, because you know that the monetary system basically in the world, the strongest, is in the US. But because we don't have the Clarity Act passed, you're going to see a lot of manipulation within the market. But personally, as an observation, it seems like Binance wants to get into the US markets, which is kind of scary. Now, after that New York Times article, you see that February 9th of 2026, Forbes did report that Binance holds roughly 87% of Trump's stablecoins. Now, that's roughly around $4.7 billion. Now, keep in mind, the team over at Binance has said that, listen, we already had USD1 on our exchange. And in fact, we hold many stablecoins on our exchange. We are the largest exchange in the world. So this should come to no surprise, since customers should hold their funds somewhere. So it's like saying, you know, they hold the largest Bitcoin reserve rather than just the stablecoin reserve. So I can get that argument. But the thing is, what I can't discount is that a majority of those stablecoins are on Binance. Usually when we see stablecoin holdings such as USDT, usually it's spread across multiple different exchanges. The fact that almost 87% of those stablecoins are on Binance, that's the thing that's very fishy. It shouldn't be that much. Then why don't we have USDT, which is the largest stablecoin in my personal opinion in the world, allocated to Binance? It makes no sense. Then on February 10th, you saw CZ appear on the All In podcast, and he wanted to address the presidential pardon. And surprisingly, this was his response.
Anyway, so the process, I believe, is there's no process. The president can do whatever they want. Right. And then, so you submit a petition and you wait. And then there is a pardon czar in the White House. I think her name is Alice Johnson. She also went to prison for many years. She wrote a really nice book, which I read. But your lawyers, will ping her, say they need a status update. They need a status update. And there's no, and then suddenly it happened. So that's kind of the extent I know about the pardon process. I don't think there's a fixed process. I don't think anybody knows what that is.
The question that some people can kind of jump to is they think, what must CZ have done to try to get it? Do you want to put that to bed?
Well, I didn't do much.
And on that same day, CZ decided to post on X that reiterating that Binance has the largest stablecoin holdings, USDT, USD1, you name it, across all centralized exchanges, not news. Again, he's reiterating this. He doesn't have to, but he's still doing it because he's trying to explain himself. But if you want to see the full interview with Forbes and their dissection of the conflict of interest between World Liberty Financial's USD1 with Binance.
And one thing to kind of go back on this, I think I should explain why this matters to Trump's bottom line. So stablecoins make money by, similarly to a bank, where they will receive US currency or foreign currency, but a regular currency. They will receive that. They will invest it in treasuries, their short-term instruments. They will receive the interest from that. So right now what you have is Binance is sitting on $2 billion of USD1. That's $2 billion that's generating interest right now at about a rate of 3.6% or so, most likely. That's going to Trump's bottom line. He's affiliated with an LLC that owns 38% of the company. So there's a lot to kind of unpack there. But the more of this money that just sits there, it means the more reserves that the Trumps have to make interest off of.
Last but not least, on February 11th, which was just yesterday on CNBC, Richard Tang, who's currently the CEO of Binance, was asked if Binance should do more to avoid appearances or suggestions of the conflict of interest between the exchange and the Trump family business. And you'll be surprised at what he says.
There has been more media reports lately in recent days, including from the New York Times, about the ties that President Trump's company, World Liberty Financial, has with Binance and how it has grown perhaps with USD1, their stablecoin, being on Binance, majority sitting in Binance. And I understand that Binance has said, of course, large exchanges hold various tokens, they promote various tokens, but I was wondering if you think Binance should do more to avoid at least the appearance and suggestions about the conflict of interest, given all the scrutiny from ethic experts.
Well, so if you look at it, all this mischaracterization is most unfortunate, right? I mean, people read just the sexy story, but it's not it's not the full story, it's not the data, right? So if you look at, even in terms of USD1, right? So you have so many mischaracterized reporting. But USD1 itself, if you look at what has happened, MGX, when they invested in Binance as a strategic investor, they were the ones that decided to use USD1 as a stable coin in terms of payment consideration, and we accepted that, right? And the fact is, USD1 was listed on other exchanges first, even before Binance listed it, right? And you mentioned it, we are the largest crypto exchanges. Our volume is 5 times that bigger than the second largest one in the industry, right? So any projects that wants to gain traction will have conversation with us, and we'll try to support them. We have supported more than 15 stablecoin trading pairs on the exchange now, right? And we run different promotions. Recently, we run a promotion on Ripple USD stablecoin, right? So we do all those things.
Do a little more though.
So if you look at just the stablecoin space, Binance as a centralized exchange, we hold more than 50% of stablecoins among the centralized exchange, right? So the figure that you mentioned is not, unusually high, because we are just that volume at that size, right? And people just have to take all those reports with a pinch of salt on that front, because it doesn't say the full story, and there are so many mischaracterizations happening.
Now, based on that conversation, it was kind of blanketed. He wasn't actually addressing it. He was trying to talk about something else. But still, it is really fishy that you have an exchange associated with the political ties of the Trump family and their Trump business, which is World Liberty Financial. So what is the overall consensus of conclusions? Well, you gotta look at the timeline. The timeline reveals that the pre-crash stablecoin expansion exchange linked investments, a historical liquidation event later described by major financial figures as stemming from pricing exploit or software glitch, a prudential pardon of Binance's founder shortly after, then the financial entanglement between Binance and the political branded stablecoin, concentration of liquidity and distribution power inside a single exchange, the 87% that we just talked about, and conflicting public explanations from key participants, which again, we're seeing that many of these different players that are calling out Binance and people that are for Binance, they just don't match up. The stories don't match up. So who's actually telling the truth? So overall, what is clear is this, that when a single exchange dominates liquidity, holds the majority of political affiliated stablecoin, and receives executive clemency and is later implicated in the largest liquidation event in crypto history, transparency is no longer an option. It's really essential at this point. Listen, I provided a timeline that has been documented, but most importantly, the interpretation is yours. My job is to just share with you the data of what's happened since the 10/10 crash, before and after. But based on what I've shared with you, I want to hear your thoughts on these sequence of timelined events, and do they add up? So leave a comment down below your thesis of what you think actually happened based on the evidence that we've seen publicly shared, and I cannot wait to read them. So as always, be sure to smash up that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to join us on X to receive all of our alpha calls and updates regarding everything in the news of Binance. Thank you so much, and see you later.